It's incredibly easy to buy a gym membership. Like, you swipe your card, the person behind the counter hands you that little plastic keychain tag.
Right, the little barcode thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then you go out, you buy some fresh, moisture-wicking workout clothes, and for about 48 hours, you feel like an absolute Olympian.
Oh, totally. Because the start is just, I mean, it's entirely fueled by emotion, right?
Right.
It's anticipation. It's this idealized version of yourself. The physical reality of the work hasn't actually set in yet.
Yeah.
You are basically running on pure dopamine.
But then, 3 weeks pass, and it's raining outside, your alarm goes off at 5:30 in the morning, your muscles ache, and suddenly, poof, that initial excitement is just completely gone.
It vanishes, yeah.
It really does. Well, welcome back to Transformation Talks, everyone. This is our special After the Amen deep dive.
That's right.
Where we take the source material today, we're looking at an incredibly powerful sermon from Transformation Ministries' own speaker, Pastor Jeffrey West, and we basically extract the core insights so you can, apply them to your own life.
Exactly.
And hey, if you want to keep getting these shortcuts to being well-informed, just take a quick second to hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss an analysis.
Yeah, please do. Because, having a framework to understand that 5:30 a.m. drop-off is crucial. That sudden loss of initial excitement is the exact phenomenon we are unpacking today.
Right. Our mission today is exploring the fundamental difference between starting a journey and actually finishing it.
Because they are very different things.
So different. According to Pastor West, the defining factor of success isn't the thrilling start. And surprisingly, it isn't the rewarding finish either.
No, it's not.
It is the messy, grueling, completely unglamorous middle.
The middle.
Right. And whether we're talking about a marriage, a career change, a spiritual walk, or even just a personal health goal, we are looking at how to survive that middle space without losing your faith or, your focus.
Well, and the setup for this concept, it begins with this very specific, palpable moment of excitement in the sermon.
Oh, the prophetic word.
Right. Pastor West is talking about a Saturday morning prayer session, and he hears this message about double doors opening in people's lives.
Yeah, and I love the visual he gives here. He was actually driving on Interstate 64 while listening to this prayer call, and he gets so fired up, he drops his phone between the seats.
Which we've all done.
Right. But he doesn't pull over. He just keeps driving, listening, and praying. But the specific language he uses to analyze that detail, that's what really caught my attention.
What part specifically?
He says a double door doesn't represent a stream. It represents a gusher. It's like an outpouring of bulk blessings.
Ah, yeah. That distinction is so vital for setting expectations. Because, think about it. A standard door lets one person through at a time.
Right, it's a trickle.
Exactly, a trickle. But a double door implies volume. But, and this is the big but, to walk through those double doors, he emphasizes that you have to push.
They aren't the automatic sliding doors at the grocery store.
No.
Yeah.
You can't just, stand on the little sensor mat and wait for the universe to just open up for you.
Yeah, which introduces our core theme today, really persevering through resistance. Because you have the promise of the double doors, but you're currently standing in the space before them.
Right. You are in the middle.
Which brings us to the actual, psychological danger of that middle space. We've established there are blessings waiting, there are goals to achieve.
Yeah.
But transitioning from that starting block excitement to the reality of the daily grind, that is where the vast majority of people tap out.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about a track star. At the starting blocks, they're full of adrenaline. The crowd is cheering. The gun goes off. Or think about starting a business.
Oh, starting a business is all designing logos and picking out brand colors.
Right. Dreaming of profit. Starting is heavily celebrated, and finishing is heavily celebrated.
But nobody throws a parade for you when you were, 50% of the way through a 5-year business plan.
Seriously, no one.
The middle is a completely applause-free zone. And because it lacks external validation, it exposes all our internal deficits. Pastor West uses some really grounded, almost humorous, everyday examples to illustrate what quitting in the middle looks like.
Oh, yeah, the cereal one. He talks about people who pour a bowl of cereal but then don't go to the fridge to put the milk in.
Right, or putting on your shoes but not bothering to lace them up.
Which he jokingly calls being jacklegs.
Jacklegs, it's so funny. But it's true, you initiate the action, but you just leave it incomplete.
Right, you just stop. And it's a funny visual, but it points to a much deeper issue regarding how we process fatigue.
It does. It points to the subtle nature of weariness. There's a really profound insight in the sermon here. Weariness doesn't attack your ability, It attacks your desire.
Wow.
It weakens the heart, not the hands.
Let's just sit with that for a second because it really changes how we view our own burnout. I mean, your hands still know exactly how to lace the shoes.
Exactly.
Your brain still knows how to execute the spreadsheet for your business or, how to have a healthy conversation with your spouse. Your capacity hasn't diminished at all.
No, the capacity is fully there.
But the weariness creeps into your motivation. You start questioning if the finish line is even worth the effort anymore. You lose the why.
And when the why fades, the how feels impossible, even if you are fully capable.
Right.
When you separate ability from desire like that, you realize that giving up in the middle is rarely a question of competence. It is almost always a crisis of will.
Okay, but wait, let me push back on this a little bit because I think there is a potentially dangerous trap here.
Okay, what is it?
At what point is the weariness actually a valid signal that you are, in fact, doing the wrong thing?
Oh, that's a fair question.
Right. If we are in the middle of a project or getting a degree and our desire drops to literally zero, how do we know we aren't just stubbornly walking down the wrong path? Shouldn't the right path feel somewhat energizing?
See, that is the exact trap people fall into. They mistake exhaustion for a lack of alignment.
Oh, interesting.
They assume that if an endeavor was quote-unquote meant to be, the universe would just make it frictionless. But Pastor West provides this modern analogy for this that clears it up beautifully.
The cell phone analogy.
Yes. He asked the congregation to think about their cell phone.
Right, because when your cell phone battery dies, you don't throw the device in the trash and declare the phone defective.
No.
You don't say, well, I guess this phone is broken forever. I never should have bought an iPhone. It must not be meant to be.
Exactly. You recognize that it simply lacks power, not that it lacks purpose.
Right, you plug it into a wall outlet. You recharge it.
The hardware is perfectly fine. The battery is just drained. And the same applies to the listener. When you hit that grueling middle and your desire drops to 1%, the solution isn't to just abandon the project or the relationship.
Right.
The solution is to plug into a power source. For his congregation, he emphasizes plugging into God, into the Word, to recharge that spiritual battery.
And the mechanism of recharging is active, not passive. I mean, you have to physically take the cord and plug it in.
You have to do it.
In our daily lives, that means actively seeking out the things that restore your baseline, whether that's prayer, returning to your original core values, finding community, or honestly, sometimes just getting a solid night of sleep.
Oh, definitely.
So you can recover the desire to use the abilities you already possess.
But, we also have to account for the moments when the middle isn't just exhausting. Sometimes it's actively terrifying.
Yes.
Because sometimes you are plugged in, you are doing everything right, you have the desire, and things still go completely sideways.
Which is the worst feeling.
It is. And to explain this dynamic, the sermon turns to the biblical story from the Gospel of Mark chapter 4, the story of Jesus and the storm on the Sea of Galilee.
Yeah, this narrative is essentially a masterclass in understanding the dynamics of the middle. Let's look at how the journey actually starts. Jesus says to his disciples, let us go to the other side.
Right. The authority figure initiates the trip.
Exactly.
Which implies something really vital. The destination was predestined. The journey wasn't random. They are promised the other side before they even step foot in the boat.
So the disciples are obeying. They are doing exactly what they were told to do by the leader they trust.
Yep.
And their reward for that perfect obedience is rowing straight into a massive, life-threatening storm.
Right.
I think this trips a lot of people up. We have this subconscious belief that doing the right thing or stepping out in faith creates this sort of protective bubble around us. Why does stepping out in faith so often lead straight into a hurricane?
Well, we assume obedience immunizes us against pressure. But the reality presented here is that pressure is the mechanism of growth. The storm came after their obedience because the middle is where your initial faith has to be tested.
It has to be proven.
Exactly. If faith is never subjected to a storm, it remains entirely theoretical. But the way Pastor West breaks down the resolution of that storm, it offers a really fascinating perspective on gamma.
Oh, the linguistic insight he shared here is incredible. When Jesus wakes up, he speaks to the storm. And in English, we typically read it as one compound thought, peace, be still.
Right.
But Pastor West points out that these are actually two distinct commands addressing two entirely different problems.
Yeah, the linguistics reveal a lot about how we process a crisis. Peace was spoken to stop the actual storm, to command the wind to cease its aggression. It addresses the external threat.
And be still was commanded to the water itself to stop the after effects.
The ripples.
Right. The residual rocking of the boat.
Hmm.
This is incredibly relevant to how we handle modern crises. Because sometimes in life, the immediate threat is over. The wind has stopped blowing.
Right.
The medical treatment is finished, or the divorce is finalized, or the toxic boss has been fired. The crisis is technically over, but you are still rocking.
Your nervous system is still trapped in fight or flight mode.
Exactly.
Your body is physically holding the trauma of the storm,
Yeah.
constantly anticipating the next wave, even though the sky is clear.
And the sermon suggests that we need command over those after effects just as much as we need the storm to break. Stilling the water means actively doing the work to calm your internal environment after the external environment has finally stabilized.
That's right.
But there is another layer to this story, which is the disciples' reaction during the storm. They were in an absolute panic, crying out, "Care thou not that we perish." Why? Because Jesus was asleep in the hinder part of the ship.
They looked at a sleeping figure and they interpreted that as apathy.
They did.
They mistook silence for absence. And the takeaway here is monumental for anyone in the messy middle of a struggle. God's silence does not equal his absence.
Wow.
The sermon makes the point that his presence is far more important than his activity.
But we want constant activity, don't we?
We do.
We want a new miracle every 5 minutes just to prove we are safe.
But sometimes the silence is a deliberate test. It's a moment to see if you will rely on the training and the faith you've already accumulated. I mean, if the leader is resting, it might be a signal that the situation is actually under control.
Even if your limited perspective makes it look chaotic.
Right. And if silence is a test of our trust, then our focus is the thing that determines whether we sink or swim during that test.
Right. And to illustrate the sheer power of focus, Pastor West moves to Matthew 14, the famous story of Peter walking on the water.
Oh, this is a great one.
It is. Let's trace the trajectory of Peter's mindset here. He starts incredibly boldly. He asks permission to come out onto the water. Jesus says, "Come." So Peter steps out and he is walking perfectly, literally defying the laws of physics because he is walking toward the authority that gave him permission.
Yep. He is intensely focused on his purpose.
Exactly. He starts strong, but then he sinks. And he doesn't sink because the water suddenly lost its surface tension.
Right. The physical environment didn't change at all.
No, he sinks because he shifted his focus. He took his eyes off his purpose and started looking at what the text calls the boisterous winds.
He started looking at the turbulence instead of the target. And Pastor West connects this lost focus to a really powerful verse from Galatians. You did run well. Who hindered you?
I want to highlight that specific word choice. It doesn't say what hindered you. It says who. Who is in your ear?
Exactly. In the middle of a vulnerable process, idle conversations are deeply toxic.
They really are.
Letting the wrong voices in, or listening to people who speak doubt over your goals, it can completely derail your progress. The sermon even notes that sometimes distractions are good things with bad timing.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. A new opportunity might look great, but if it takes your eyes off the primary purpose you are currently in the middle of, your focus shifts to the turbulence and you begin to sink.
Well, to drive this idea of focus home, the sermon features a really visceral analogy from Pastor West's military days. He talks about these grueling 2-mile runs on Fort Story Beach, running up this massive sand dune they call Misery Hill.
Just the name Misery Hill.
Right. Just imagine the physical weariness of running in loose sand up a steep incline. Your lungs are burning, your legs feel like literal lead, and your desire to quit is just screaming at you.
That is the ultimate physical manifestation of the messy middle. Your body's telling you to stop, the environment's working against you, and the top of the hill feels miles away.
And the only way the soldiers survived that run was by getting incredibly close to the person directly in front of them. So close that they felt physically connected.
Right.
When the guy in front took a step with his left foot, you took a step with your left foot. You were in perfect sync. You didn't look at the massive hill. You didn't look at how far you had to go. You didn't look at the boisterous wind.
You just focused on staying in sync with the leader. It's a psychological strategy for overriding panic.
By shrinking your visual horizon.
Right, to just the back of the person in front of you. You completely remove the overwhelm of the big picture.
Okay, but how do we actually apply this syncing to, say, a Tuesday afternoon?
What do you mean?
Well, if you are overwhelmed at work or struggling to finish a degree, you can't just physically walk behind someone in a literal line. What does stepping in sync look like in daily life?
Oh, I see.
I think it comes down to curation. Curating your inputs and deliberately choosing your mentors.
It does. It means finding someone who has successfully navigated the hill you are currently climbing and meticulously mimicking their habits.
Right.
If they read certain books, you read those books. If they practice a specific financial discipline, you adopt that discipline.
It's setting firm boundaries against the boisterous winds, really. If complaining with coworkers at the water cooler is a boisterous wind that drains your desire, you stop going to the water cooler.
Exactly.
You sync up with people who are moving toward a purpose rather than engaging with people who are distracted by the storm.
Now, walking on water and surviving military runs are incredible metaphors.
Yeah.
But the sermon also translates this into the mundane, frustrating realities of domestic life.
Yes.
Because surviving the middle often looks a lot like putting together boxed furniture from a certain Swedish retailer.
Oh my goodness, the universal test of human patience. Your flat pack box. You look at the glossy picture on the front at the start. It looks amazing in the photo.
Oh.
Then you skip to the end of the instruction manual to see the final product. But you completely ignore the 64 middle steps. You try to just wing it.
Right, and what happens? You end up with a wobbly bookcase, 3 leftover wooden dowels, and a product that absolutely does not function properly.
It never works.
The integrity of the finished product is forged in those middle steps.
Right.
If you try to bypass the process, you abort the purpose. And people hate discussing the middle steps because the middle is not photogenic.
No, it's not.
It's gritty. It's tedious.
Pastor West was refreshingly candid about his own marriage to illustrate this. People love to talk about the happy start, the beautiful wedding day photos, or the successful finish the 50th anniversary party.
All right.
But if you actually want to help somebody else survive their marriage, you have to be willing to talk about the gritty, dirty middle.
You have to discuss the unglamorous realities. The times when you were arguing about money at midnight. The times when the external pressure from careers or parenting felt just unbearable.
Yeah.
He used a really striking term regarding conflict resolution in a marriage. He said sometimes to maintain effective communication and peace in a home, you have to defraud yourself.
Defrauding yourself. That caught me off guard at first because we usually think of fraud as a crime.
Right, a negative thing.
But in this context, he's talking about voluntarily setting aside your own ego. It's relinquishing your absolute need to be right in an argument in order to prioritize the health of the relationship.
It is an act of calculated humility that is required to survive the middle.
Yeah.
If both people demand a trophy in the middle of the fight, the marriage fails.
It definitely fails.
Defrauding yourself doesn't mean becoming a doormat or abandoning your core boundaries.
Yeah.
It means recognizing that winning the argument might cost you the connection. You compromise your pride for the bigger picture.
And speaking of bigger pictures, the sermon closes out this look at the gritty reality with the ultimate underdog story, David and Goliath. And the way it's framed really highlights the contrast between the paralysis of fear and the action of faith. Think about the entire Israelite army, including King Saul. They are stuck in the middle.
Stuck.
They have been taunted by this giant for days. They are completely paralyzed. They're looking at the size of the giant, the size of his spear, the sheer impossibility of the situation.
They're hyper-focused on the boisterous winds.
Exactly.
The atmosphere in that camp is toxic with doubt. They are listening to the wrong voices. But then David arrives.
Right.
He's simply running an errand, dropping off groceries for his brothers in the army. But his reaction to the giant is entirely different because his focus is different. He refuses to be hindered by the panic around him.
Even his own brothers try to discourage him.
Right, calling him arrogant and telling him to go home.
But David shifts his focus away from the giant size. He looks at his own past experiences with God. He basically starts pulling out his resume. He says, when a lion and a bear came after my sheep, I took care of them.
He relied on the training he'd already been through.
Yeah. He didn't let the fear of the middle paralyze him. He used his past survival to fuel his present faith.
Which really brings us to a profound realization about why we are sometimes left alone in the middle of our struggles. A thought that completely reframes the experience of isolation.
Yes, and this is the final provocative thought I want to leave everyone with today. It's an idea Pastor West briefly touched on, and it perfectly ties everything together. He compared God watching us in the middle of a storm to a parent who is letting their child walk to the bus stop alone for the very first time.
Oh, it's a deeply nerve-wracking moment for any parent. You want to protect them. You want to walk them all the way to the steps of the bus.
But you know you can't hold their hand forever.
Right.
You stand back, hidden on the porch, and you watch. You watch to see if they look both ways before crossing the street. You watch to see if they remember the training you've poured into them. You are completely silent, but you are entirely present.
Applying that to the listener changes the entire paradigm of suffering.
Right. What if the current middle you are struggling with right now, that situation where you feel completely alone, unheard, and totally overwhelmed, what if it isn't a sign that you are failing?
Yeah.
What if it is actually proof that you have grown enough to be trusted with the test? The silence might not be abandonment. It might be the ultimate opportunity for you to prove what you've learned.
It reframes the messy middle from a punishment into a proving ground.
So the next time you find yourself with an unlaced shoe or a bowl of dry cereal or staring up at your own misery hill, remember, your battery isn't dead, it just needs to be plugged in.
And remember that those double doors require a push.
Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. If this analysis resonated with you, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel so we can keep exploring these transformative ideas together.
We also want to invite you to engage with the community directly.
Yes, join us live on the Transformation Ministries VB YouTube channel or their Facebook page every single Sunday at 10:00 a.m.
And, of course, you can watch replays of this entire unedited sermon on the Transformation Ministries YouTube channel.
You really should, to experience the full message from Pastor West for yourself. Trust me, the energy of the actual delivery is something you need to hear. Until next time, keep pushing through the middle. We'll see you then.